Ready for another bomb review? I know I am. This week I'm going to reveal a protectograph. What is a protectograph? Well, it has something to do with writing checks. What is a check? Well, if you don't know what a check is, and you very well might not, ask your parents or maybe your grandparents. So that's what we're going to look at. I'll unbag it, I'll review it, and show you how it works. So what is a protectograph? I've got it in the bag here. BOMB stands for Bags O Mystery. Every episode I reveal something cool, old, and interesting, sometimes machines, sometimes just really neat objects. And I unbag them because I don't have the original packaging. So think of it as an unboxing. So let's get going on the protectograph. It is a Todd Protectograph. It was made in 1919. It's actually pretty cool. It still works. And it still functions, still actually is useful today if you were actually writing checks. So here it is. Basically, it's a machine that you put a check through and roll the crank, and it imprints and embeds or embosses the words of the amount. So you know how when you write a check, well, again, maybe you don't know how, but when you write a check, you write the numeric number amount up in the corner, and then across the line you write out the words. Well, this machine writes out the words of whatever amount you want. So I'll quick show you how it works and why it's still useful today. Let me grab a blank check. It's blank, but I've blacked out the account number, so nice try. All right, so there's a slider here that slides in and out. I'm going to set it at 15, which I predetermined is the right place to start on the order line. And then there's this crosshairs that lines up with where you want to write. So I'm going to put there, when it's not on release, it won't open. So you have to release it to get the check in. We'll start it right there. And then one crank puts a hashtag in the front so that people can't write something in the front of it and get more money out of you. And I'm going to write a check today for $15,800.50. So first number would be 15. And you'll notice that it auto feeds. There's a little claw in there that drags it along every time you turn the crank. 15, then the word thousand, which spells all the way out. 800. I don't know why the 100 is up at top like that. It's kind of different. Okay, and then dollars. And I'm going to go 50. So prints the word 50 cents. And then at the end, I'm going to put only, again, so nobody can write on to the end of it, only. And then I'm going to release it, pull it out, and there it is. $15,800.50 only. If you look at it up close, you can see that there is texture, and that it's embossed, and that the ink actually gets pressed all the way through the check. That's why somebody can't bleach it, because the bleach would have to go down into those imprints, and the imprints would still be there, and mostly they would still have the ink. So it just doesn't work. I actually was using this for my business, and I put some checks in the mail for my business, and I put some checks in the mail for my personal bills. Somebody stole those from the mailbox, and I didn't even know that they'd been stolen until a Good Samaritan came by, and they held up one of my business checks, which they had found in their lawn. And I mean, that just really confused me. I'm like, what's going on? Well, the reason that the business check was on the lawn and the other checks were gone is because the business check had been used using the protectograph. And the other checks, sure enough, and I couldn't believe it, but they actually bleached those checks and use them. So I had fraud and I had to change accounts, but my business account was protected. So that was actually pretty cool. I don't use it as much anymore. Most things are online, but if I ever do want to write out a check, I usually pull this thing out just because it's fun and it works. So that's really about all. I mean, there's really no other function for this. It's not very heavy, so I'm assuming that back in the day they used to lock it up every night in a cabinet or a drawer, because otherwise somebody could just crank out business checks at your place of business. Inside, there's not a lot going on. As you probably imagine, there are rollers with stamps. So you pull this knob and push this lever, and the top comes up. And then if you pull this cover down, you can see these are ink pads, and then right here are metal stamps with the words and the numbers. The things in black come out to are the things like cents, dollars only. Everything else is in red. That's pretty much all there is to it. There's not a lot. You can also ink the rollers by opening this door. They have instructions on how to use it inside. And if I slide this lever up, you can see all of the full length of the rollers, and it's easier to ink it like this. More ink on my hands. That's about all there is to this thing. This pushes in, this folds up. There are patent numbers on the bottom. The last patent date on there is 1919, but through some research looking at the serial number on the end, I've placed it at about 1919. So 100 years old, a true antique, and like most old machines that I have, you can still use it, and I love that about it. It's still useful, serves its original purpose, and 100 years old and it still works. I mean, there's just solid. It's probably going to work another, 200 years, 300 years, but obviously checks are on the way out, and I don't think even in 100 years people even know what checks are. That's it for this episode. Quick and easy. It's a simple but very effective and sturdy machine. Next time, I'm going to show a collection I have of the oldest objects I own, and probably the oldest objects you'll ever put your hands on, if you ever do. They're really fun to collect. That's something we've done for 20 years as a family. We'd go collect these things. They're about 1.2 billion years old, and I can't wait to show them to you. Very simple, just mostly an object, not a machine. And I'll show you those on the next episode of Bomb Reviews. Hope to see you there.